to Morning Joe. Joining us now from Capitol Hill, Democratic Senator from West Virginia, member of the Armed Services Committee, Senator Joe Manchin, and up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, NBC News chief, White House correspondent, political director, the host of the Daily Rundown from an undisclosed coffee shop, Chuck
Not
Todd.
undisclosed.
Where are you,
I'm
Chuck?
at the Crema Cafe. At the Crema Cafe right here in Harvard Square. So come on.
Yummy.
Don't be undisclosed about it. They've been very kind to us.
They have been.
Say Crema Cafe, Crema Cafe. I'm going to say it over and over again until I continue to get free coffee. That's really what this is.
If you haven't gotten it already, there's a problem. Chuck, we'll get to you in just a second. Senator Manchin, I want to start with you. You've said you won't back this Syria resolution. In fact, you've proposed an alternative that has to do with the Chemical Weapons Convention, Syria signing on to that. I wonder what you make of this proposal from the Russians yesterday, that they would somehow convince Syria to put their arms under an international collective that would control them, and this would be some way out, perhaps, of military action. What do you make of that offer?
Well, first, it's encouraging to hear more of the international community coming to their senses. If it's about chemical weapons, we had no plan to either secure those chemical weapons or eliminate them. All we had was a plan to either strike and show them that we had the military might to do so. You know, I've said so many times, that being a superpower is more than showing that you have the super might to do what you want to do militarily. You have to have super patience, you have to have super negotiating, super diplomacy, and most important, super humanitarian need where needed. We have all that ability to do all of that, which makes us the superpower. But the bottom line was there was a different alternative. We were looking for an option. We didn't have an option. I think it's hypocritical up here to vote against something unless you have a better idea and you're for something. That's why myself and Heidi Heitkamp worked together to put this resolution together, which basically says give Assad 45 days to join the Chemical Weapons Commission. When he does that, he brings in 191 countries that are looking at him and saying you better comply. If he signs on, then we start working towards identifying, securing, and eliminating his weapons and preventing him from ever producing any more weapons. If he doesn't, it really shows the intentions. Since there has been no urgency to strike, even all of our secured briefings have said that, the president has said, we can hit and show our military might at any time, since we don't intend to have a regime change, since we don't intend to have boots on the ground to go secure the weapons, we can do that anytime.
So Senator, what has been the response from the White House? And you came up with this plan. Have they been receptive to that idea of taking a breather of 45 days before military action?
Well, you know, we shared it. I've shared everything with the White House and with all my colleagues, saying we do have an option, rather than just walking away and say, well, you either vote for the strike, which shows the strength of the military and preserves the strength of the presidency, which all of us want to make sure that we do. But on the other hand, we don't believe the strike would do anything except instigate maybe more reaction. So with that, the option came. I see it moving. I saw Secretary Kerry for the first time say that maybe in 7 days, even though he knows that's not a feasible time, but he's starting to move. They're starting to look for an option. You have to applaud the president for coming to Congress. Can you imagine the pressure the president has had to go ahead and strike when they wanted him to strike? And he said, no, let's go to Congress. So he came to us. We've thrown out our ideas, and we'll see where they go.
John Hellman.
Chuck, there's been a lot of moving pieces on the chessboard over the course of the last few days. This is a big day for the White House in terms of the president's speech tonight. Where do you think they want to be 24 hours from now? If this time tomorrow, what would be a success for the White House in terms of tangible markers?
I think at this point, they know what's. I think by the time he speaks tonight, we may have a new authorization that's written, a new authorization that the president supports that includes, it could be that 45 days that Senator Manchin's talking about. But this is moving fast. It's moving faster than perhaps even the White House thought it was going to move. But you see that even his biggest supporters for taking action in Syria are grasping onto this Russian idea and are desperate to see if it plays out. So I think that they see the best thing going is that he goes in front of the public tonight, acknowledges the idea, still presses his case, but is able to say, you know, this pressure of a potential military strike has worked. This is why the Russians came forward at the last second with this idea. This is why that while skeptical, we think it's the right thing to do to go through every last-minute diplomatic channel. And that's probably the best way, John, forward for him to get a majority in Congress to support him on this. He had no chance of getting this authorization passed in either the House and perhaps even the Senate without some sort of delay, some sort of what the Russians have done is have bought him time, bought members of Congress time, and now it's sort of like, okay, this is the ultimatum, this is the moment that I think members of Congress were hoping would be out there so that they could say, I'm not voting for a military strike right now, I'm voting to make sure this last-second diplomatic avenue is pursued before strikes are conducted. And I think that by 9 o'clock tonight, I wouldn't be surprised if we're in a more official capacity of seeing that that's the case that the president is making, that he's not making a case to strike in the next 48 hours, that he's making the case to strike in the next 48 days.
All right, Nicole Wallace.
Senator, did you talk to John Kerry yesterday before he floated something that sounded very much like your proposal at that press conference that the State Department then walked back and then they seemed to unwalk it back? Were you in contact with any of them?
No, I shared everything with them and their staff. I'm hoping they got a chance to see it. Ours was brought together by a group of people who have expertise, whether it be former diplomats, current diplomats, former military, current military. We consulted with everybody we could and kept saying, please, you people are very bright. You've been down this road before. Give us some options. And last Thursday, this is how this unraveled, to where we had something that made sense because it all honed in on chemical weapons. Chuck just said something about the international community and all of our friends or allies. You know, Britain had voted not to do it, and France has been reluctant. France said they're going to wait until the UN inspectors report back. We just found out this morning that France also has agreed to support this kind of a movement and is going to put it before the UN. So we're getting international buy-in now. And, you know, we're part of this international community. And we need to be able to work with them and move in lockstep. And I think this is really an opportunity. I give the president, I truly give him kudos for coming to us. I also think his resolve to basically say we will do what it takes to make sure these weapons are not used on any human beings anywhere in the world is also very, very admirable.
Important, yeah.
But the bottom line is that now cooler heads have to prevail.
Chuck Todd, looking at these polls, it almost seems like an impossible sell tonight to the nation.
It was. I think it was clearly impossible, and that's why I think when you saw it was almost like a life raft. The way the Kerry proposal was grabbed onto. First of all, the Russians grabbed onto it almost like a life raft to defend the White House here a little bit, but so did members of Congress delaying the vote that Harry Reid did. I mean, you know, the White House is pretty skeptical of this proposal. They're not big believers of it. They were surprised that the Russians went public in support of it, so that makes them somewhat optimistic. But they have to take it seriously because members of Congress are desperate to see if it's serious and why. Look at these poll numbers. It's not even close, right? Only a third of Americans want their member of Congress to support authorization to allow the president to do this. It's 60%. And by the way, over a 10-day period, we went into the field 10 days ago, and over a 10-day period, support for Syria has gotten worse, not better for the president. The president's position and his handling of Syria has gotten worse. He's under 30 now on his handling of Syria, and it's across the board. I mean, Democrats give him a little more leeway on this than Republicans, but it's down everywhere. There is just no public appetite. There's no political will in the country, and if there's no political will in the country, you're not going to have political will on Capitol Hill. So that's why the White House has to embrace this Russian proposal, even if they don't believe it, because they have no choice.
Senator Joe Manchin, thank you. Joe, go ahead real quick.
If I might weigh in real quick, Mika, those poll numbers are even high. I can tell you myself in West Virginia, first 3 days, 4,000 contacts, only 40 people were for it, 1%. We can't find any colleagues that I'm speaking to on Capitol Hill that has any support more than 5%. So I don't know where the 30% comes from, but I can tell you it's not high.
Okay, Joe, thanks very much for being on the show. And Chuck, thank you as well. We'll see you at 9 a.m. and maybe you'll let us know from the Crema Cafe if everybody who works there or goes there has to have Miley Cyrus's haircut. Just wondering. Just look behind you.
Are you really? Wow. Wow, you taking a shot? Are you taking a shot?
No, it's not a shot. It's just
this is Harvard Square.
Take a
Mika,
look.
don't be mocking Harvard.
I'm not mocking Harvard.